Hello, welcome to another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. I'm Lady TrenettWilson, your lecturer and social historian. I am excited about today's lecture. I want to welcome all of my Royalers, 16,000 subscribers. I'm blown away. Thank you. Now, if this is your first time, welcome. We here at Royal Black and Elite talk about the more hidden sides of Black history, the royal and elite side. And today I'd like to introduce you to the first Black man who won a world championship in cycling. Yes. Black people did cycling even back in the 1800s. So it brings me such honor to bring and introduce to you Marshall Walter Major Taylor. Now, most people know him as just Major Taylor, and most people only know cycling by one name, Lance Armstrong. Before his quick fall from grace from taking PEDs, he was the most well-known person who raced in cycling. But before him, there was a man named Major Taylor. Major was born on November the 26th, 1878, in Indianapolis, Indiana. His father was a Civil War veteran, and his name was Gilbert Taylor, and his mom's name was Sophronia. He was one of 8 children. They had 5 girls and 3 boys. Now, in 1887, his father became a coachman for a really wealthy family called the Southlands. And the Southlands had a son named Daniel, and they really got along. So from 8 to 12 years old, Major lived with the Southlands, and he was taught how to read and educated and in social graces and in academics with the family. And so that's where he got his start. But then the Southlands moved to Chicago. Before they left, the father gave him his first bike. So that was where the desire for him to learn how to ride bikes came from. By 1892, he was an expert trick rider. And the owner of this bicycle shop, his name was Tom Hay. He paid him a weekly salary of $6 to actually do tricks and also clean the shop. He would work for him for a while, and he gave him a bike that was worth $35. Now, after a while, he changed his name, and that's how he became Major. People know him as Major instead of Marshall as a rider because he used to ride in a military uniform. I just could only imagine how hot it was. Here are some pictures of people riding bikes back in the day. So, yeah, it was pretty toasty riding a bike, but he rode in a uniform, and so he changed his name to Major. Now, Major began to race when he was really young. He moved over to a company owned by a man named Munger, and this was a cycling company. He produced the bicycles, but he also raced the bicycles. So he taught Marshall or Major how to race, and he raced for the first time in 1890 in Indianapolis, and he raced long races and short races. The first major race he raced in 1895 was 75 miles, and he won because he was the only one who finished. So he could do the short ones and he could do the long ones. But he moved from Indianapolis after winning and setting a new world record as a black cyclist in that race in 1895. He went ahead and moved to Worcester. And this was the center of bicycle manufacturing. They had factories, they had over 30 bicycle shops. So this is where he made his home. So Munger followed him because he had 2 different places where he had the shops. So he followed him there, and Major worked for both companies or for both sites. Now, he also, when he got there to Massachusetts, he also joined an all black cycle company there, club, and he trained at the YMCA. Major's name appeared in the New York Times for the first time on September the 26th, 1895, but it would not be the last one. It was as a competitor in an upcoming race. But through the years, he was just growing and growing in popularity, even though he was facing a lot of racism. In one of his races toward the end, a man ran up and threw water in his face. So he ended up being like number 23. He ended up like 23rd. So his amateur years ended on November the 26th, 1896 in Jamaica, New York, in the Tatum Handicap, where he finished 14th. He then began his professional career at 18 years old. He won his first professional race and the longest race that he ever entered to. He said he would never, ever do any long races again. He didn't even complete it. The race was 6 days, and he claimed a man was chasing him with a knife. So, again, the racism that he faced it's just terrible. And so, despite this, Major kept on competing with newspapers, nicknamed him names like Black or the Colored Cyclone, Ebony Flyer, or the Worcester Whirlwind. The fans absolutely loved him, with Theodore Roosevelt keeping up with his career for 17 years. So he was even a fan. Now, during 1898 through 99, this was Major's just greatest peak years of his racing. He established 7 world records, one of which stood for 28 years. And in 1899, he became the first African American to win a world championship in cycling while competing in Montreal. Because of the racism, they had to go over the seas. He had to go to Montreal, he had to go to England, he had to go to Australia, all because of the racism here. So he even won there as well. The funny thing about him, because this was my grandmother. If anything happened on Sunday, it was not happening for you. So the races happened on Sunday. So after he won his world record and his championship, he didn't race again until 1909 because the races were on Sunday and he was an avid Baptist and he could not miss any Sundays. But he's a wealthy man. In 1900, he bought his first home. So kudos to him. He took his money and he put it in a good place initially. Because let me tell you, in 1902, he got married to a lady named Daisy Victoria Morris. Now they married in Connecticut and they had one child. Her name was Rita. And Rita was born in Australia in 1904 on May the 11th. And the family moved into the house that he had bought. He continued to race after he was married. But can you imagine after 29 years, because he retired in 1910? So after he retired, his wife left him 20 years later. So she left, she moved to New York, and can you believe it? He never saw his wife or his daughter again. I mean, I don't know why. They don't say if they were arguing or fussing or what, but they never saw each other again. His daughter went on actually to teach at the University of Virginia, and she passed at 101 years old in 2005. In 1984, she donated an extensive scrapbook collection of her father's work to the University of Pittsburgh. I mentioned that his wife left him in 1930. When she left, it was said that he had to sell his property and he also had to sell some of the things inside of his property, even though he was a millionaire from the winnings throughout his career in today's term. When she left in 30, he was ill, and only 2 years later, he had passed away. He had high blood pressure and he had a heart attack. And so he passed on June the 21st, 1932. No one claimed his body, so he was buried in a pauper's grave. I'm assuming that she knew he was sick and that he had passed away, but she didn't even claim his body. In 1948, A group of professional cyclists got together and they purchased him, or rather, they actually purchased it, but who really donated the money was Schwinn Bicycle. So thank you, Schwinn, for honoring Major Taylor and this man who set 7 records. A black man lost to many of us in history. Many of us have never heard from him, but look at all of these plaques and exhibits. So his name is really starting to come out. In fact, in 1992, Philip Morris played him in a movie because that's what I was going to say. Why don't we have a movie about him? But they actually made a movie in 1992. And in 2007, Nike produced the Major Taylor Premium. So if you can get your hands on a pair of those, oh, I'm telling you, they would be a definite collector's piece. I hope that you enjoyed today's lecture all about Mr. Major Taylor. Are you a bicycler? I used to be until I fell down and skinned my knee. But I've always liked bicycling. My grandchildren love bicycling, and it also is a very healthy sport to do. I hope that you look into him a little bit more. And if you're in the Indianapolis area, if you're in the Rochester area, they have many plaques to him. Look at this, you all. This is just wonderful. So if you're in any of those areas, make sure you stop by and look at some of his exhibits. Again, I thank you for watching. Remember that my lectures are for entertainment and educational purposes only. My sources were Who Was Major Taylor? Bridgewater Saint University, Stories of African American Achievement. Wilma L. Moore's Everyday People, Sports Champions and History, and Wikipedia. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you on another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you again for our 16,000 subbies. You all leave your comments down below. Did you know this man? Have you ever heard of this man? I just love bringing Royal Black and Elite history to you. And I thank you for watching.